Whew, man, you ever get that feeling where you're just super excited to talk about something and stuff's been happening behind the scenes and you're like, I just want to know what happened. I just want to get to, the content, the details. And I've been doing that with Eden Zero um for quite a while actually. As for why I didn't do chapter live reactions, it's not that I dropped them per se. That's actually where I want to start off this discussion video is I didn't necessarily drop it. Let me just say that right now. For those of you that are aware, I have currently, gone through a recovery period from surgery, and that recovery procedure took a little bit more time than I expected it to because I knew I wasn't going to tackle chapter 169 and maybe 173. Like I knew I wasn't going to tackle like a few chapters, but the process itself has taken a while and I'm in the final phase of it now, which means we're finally getting somewhere with it and I'm good enough to do these videos again. I can't say for sure that I'm going to be coming back to like chapter live reactions again anytime soon. But for the moment, I will do these chapter catch up stream discussions, and if things go well next Thursday, then I'll be doing the discussion videos again. But nonetheless, I'm so looking forward to this. I am like so looking forward to talking about Eden Zero because oh my god, so much has happened. It's not even funny. So much has happened in Eden Zero, and I guess we should go ahead and talk about where we were at. Now, I've taken a lot of notes here on each of the chapters, and I'm only going to cover them point by point. So, as far as 169 is concerned, Shiki got a new artificial eye, which I thought was interesting, and it doesn't necessarily subdue what happened in the last arc because he did lose an eye. It's just that now his eye is a bit more mechanical, a bit more androidish, as you could say. Um, that I actually thought was kind of neat because it doesn't undo what happened before when his eye got stabbed. So the consequences of that are still there, and it kind of goes back to something that happened in the beginning of the Belial Goer arc with that flash forward between Shiki and Rebecca. So it's interesting because I was like, how does that? Because when his eye was bandaged up, I kept thinking, how is that going to correlate to that moment in particular? And I know some people said maybe it's just an alternative in that verse, and it very well could be. But yet, for as long as I've known Hero, he's not the type of guy to just drop something or like massively hint at something in the future and not touch upon it. Like even in Fairy Tale, yeah, we touched upon a few things. It may not have been done in the best way possible, but if you go back to Rave, I'm always gonna mention this. Seacart. Seacart and the way Seacart was handled throughout the story and all the foreshadowing and all the events, like that itself was something. It was like, whoa. Like that was prime Hero. And I do feel like that's gonna come back into play. I really, really do. Something just I get this feeling that we're not forgetting that plot point. We aren't. And considering the outfit Shiki's currently wearing, more so, with where we're at currently, I feel like we're gonna get those events. I really do. And then we get the conversation between Weiss and Laguna, which I thought was rather touching. It was a nice conversation to see what was going on between the two boys, finding more about Laguna, how he was like a stage actor, and how he felt all this pain about losing a friend. it was something for sure. It was really something. And I know I'm not doing a great job at explaining everything, but I don't want this to be a thing where I'm just going through the chapters and then just, we go into a full summary detail. No. That being said, though, I will mention one thing. I thought it was absolutely hilarious when Shiki does have the artificial line. He's like, "Oh wow, I can see through everyone's clothes," and Ivory's like, "Yeah, I installed an X-ray vision, and you see Rebecca, you see Hamura, and Clean." And poor Jin's like, "Don't you dare look at my sister!" And Shiki's like all blushy and everything. That was funny. I'm not gonna lie, that was actually pretty amusing. And yeah, poor Pino too. Feeling concerned for Master Shiki. He's a member of the O Tech Club now. Yep, but no, that's going on. We got the conversation. I want to say Laguna's friend's name because this is where I was going to. Because he talks about how he was a big actor. He had his friend Harold, and Harold apparently lost his life. Which, according to Laguna, he said that yes, I might have overdone the tears because acting wise, like he kind of overdid it, if you will, a little bit too much than he would have liked. Um, and then shortly after that, we get the conversation with Shiki and what they're planning to do next. And Shiki does say that their goal is still going to be the same. We're going to continue to find Mother. That's not going to change, and it's the only way we're going to be able to, move forward and do something no ship has ever done before. And something that I noticed with Shiki, and this was very, very telling, is you get the flashback and you see him have the scar that's always been on him. And we've seen that scar, I want to say, during that flash forward of Rebecca's nightmare. That's the only time we've seen that scar. So, I want to say it's the only time we've seen it, but we might have seen it in like other points of the story. But as far as I can remember, that's getting that scratch per se was only back then. But no, we get that. Um, we find out the meaning behind it. How Ziggy's the kind of the one who helped him see it, helped him conceal the scar so no one could tell what was going on. And I like how that correlates back to the present, where Shiki gets rid of the tape and says, "You know what? No, 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 no. That's not how this is gonna work. I need to let this go. We set sail for Mother. There's something we have to do. This isn't about revenge or wish, or any personal grudge for my wounds. It's about saving the universe. We're going to beat Ziggy. So we're gonna get stronger to make sure no one else gets hurt." And as that happens, we get Xiao Mei again, and Xiao Mei's appeared a couple times throughout these handful of chapters. But we pretty much get the aftermath of what happens, you know, from the Aoi War arc is what it's called now. Because before it was called Nero 66, but now we're backtracking on the name and calling it the Aoi War, which was more fitting actually. And she goes on to say how the fall of the Empire and the destruction of planet Nero 66, these events liberated the Aoi Cosmos. Lives were lost in the process, and she mentions how it'll be a while before, everything's clear. But there will be a time where peace does come to fruition. It'll just be a long time. She goes on to talking about how the Union Army has occupied Nero 1. What's been going on planet Zandra was Goodwin and the boys. The conflict between the humans and the bots are still there on planet Foresta. And this is where a big transition happens that Xiaomei mentions. And it's something that threw everybody off because it was like, whoa, hold up. That's a first. And not the first in the sense that it's the first time Hero's done it, because he's done it in the past too with Fairy Tail. But we legit got an actual time skip. Like 3 years. Like the story now moves ahead 3 years into the future. And if you look at Shiki's design and you correlate that back to the Belial Go arc, I want to say that's chapter 69. Let me double check. If not 69, it's definitely in volume 10. 10 or 9 for sure. I want to say it's 9. So volume 9. Yeah, chapter 69, I was right. So yeah, if you look at Shiki's design in that chapter during that nightmare sequence, it looks very, very reminiscent. It does. Because again, he's got the scar, he's got the same look. Like the same like serious face when I was like, whoa, holy shit. Like it's like yo, Shiki has seen some shit. So I do feel like that scene's gonna come back into play. And I've mentioned that a couple times now, but I know it would just feel odd that you have a scene like that and then you don't get to that moment. It would just feel very weird, especially from someone like Hiro who knows how to lay out the foundation of what goes on in the story and then just skip over it, you know? Like even Hunter Your Quest is doing that too, which is saying a lot actually. But yeah, and then after that's when we get to chapter 170, and there's a couple things to keep in mind with chapter 170. So we get to know what's going on, and the Eden Zero crew are on uh the planet Swedes, and they're trying to deactivate the 3 cores, or at the very, if not deactivate, because I'm looking at this right now. So they're there, and yo, let me just say this right now, Shiki. Like these first few chapters we get him in, I'm like, yo, holy shit! Like, and this is exactly what I was alluding to when we saw like super serious, like Shiki has seen some type of shit going on. Like the best way I could describe him is Chad Shiki. Like people want to say Chad Aaron from Attack on Titan. That's what I was like, yo, holy shit! Like, okay, number one, the design for Shiki's time skip is epic as hell. I can't stress about that design. That design looks freaking epic for sure. Because man, oh man, oh man, oh man, oh man. I don't know what could be said. I don't know what could be said more about his design. Um, Hermit's new design looks cool too. I mean, her hair looks. It's not like her hair got longer or anything, but it's just restylized, and I think her design works for what she's given. But you see that, you see what Shiki's doing, and it's so no, like it's real interesting because you don't get the goofy antics from Shiki when we first jump into this, and it was like for at least a first, not even a handful. Like I want to say it was 174, right? Is when we get that, but we get what Shiki's doing. We see just how powerful he's become. When this whole things go down. We're seeing the bots go through. Now Ziggy has a droid factory, but he's not. Shiki isn't exactly sure where to locate him, and that's the thing they've been trying to do. What we find out in chapter 170 is that they've been at this for a while. What they've been trying to do is try to save as many of the planets as they can, but at the same time, in doing so, they're also able to try to find a clue to where Ziggy is, and they've got no idea on where Ziggy is at this current point in time. But to correct myself, actually, so they're not disarming the cores per se. It's more like they're installing the cores. They're trying to make sure it's all connected in order to make sure everything goes well. You see Rebecca and Happy taking care of the situation on their end. Weiss and Hamura doing everything too. Which, by the way, I gotta say right now, shout out to Rebecca. Oh my god. And I'm not just talking about her physical appearance, but shout out to Rebecca and what she was able to accomplish because wow, that girl deserves it. She deserves, you know, the status that she's gotten after coming off from where she was in the beginning to where she is now. I think she hella deserves it. And granted, a lot of that does go back to Couchpo and the tips that she was giving her. So that's one thing. Hell, I can kind of relate to that too. Even though my channel isn't exactly that big, but I can get where Rebecca's coming from. So it's nice to see a fellow beekeeper like Rebecca get um to where she's at in the story. But no, you're seeing that, and as it's going down, the biggest thing we find out, and this is when we cut over to victory and justice. The big revelation here is how everything that's been going on with Shiki and the Eden Zero crew, what they've done throughout the 3 years, now they've all, not necessarily all, but they've now kind of declared Shiki as a member of the Oration Sace Galactica. And I was not expecting that. I'll be honest, I was not expecting that. And it kind of gets us to a point now where Justice, like, we gotta, you know, have to find the time and fight him, you know, at a given point. But even more than that, okay? So we go from there and we get into chapter 171, which is where if I remember correctly, because I'm looking at the chapter right now. And okay, so 171 is actually pretty simple. There's not a lot that happens in chapter 171 per se, but there's a few highlights I wanted to touch on. One was Rebecca's stream, which was funny actually, because not only, like I said, do we see how far Rebecca's come in terms of being a beekeeper, but the comments, oh my god, like the comments were a treat to see because you see comments like "nice vid meow," "thanks," "another happy day," "good night," and then my wife part had me laughing. I'm not gonna lie. And then you see some of these where they kind of had like encryptions. Like, what is that? And I don't know if you guys ever gotten like comments like that, but I've gotten comments like here and there. Again, my status as a YouTuber isn't that big. Let me just say that right now. I'm not like a big YouTuber, but I have gotten like there were occasions here and there where I got comments like that, and it was it's like what? Like what is that? So it was actually funny seeing Rebecca get on. She's like, I wonder what language that is. Hold on, I'll use the translation. And that's when Rebecca, oh my god, like I felt so bad for Rebecca when she found out. She was like, "Don't do it, crappy translation." And it's like, please give me Rebecca's pain. No joke. Like I laughed for a good 2 minutes. I was like, "Oh boy, here we go." That doesn't make any sense. Oh my god. And Happy's like, "Yeah, they want your, you know, undergarments, if you will." And she's like, "That's dirty. They're not dirty." Oh, guess they do get dirty, just like everyone else. And oh my god, like the comments you're seeing here, want this, want the myth busting? That'll go in the clips collection. LOL. A a pretty big generalization. What is very, very so cute. Nice, bros. Love this. I love all give them to me. And then she's like, what do you make me say? And that's where, stream ends. And like I said, that's where you find out that Catchwell's been helping her get the tips and whatnot on what it means to be a beekeeper. She's not exactly like on the same number of subscribers that Couchwell has, but she's pretty much in like the triple digits. Not even the triple digits, but like 3 million, I want to say. Yeah, 3 million. Because you do 3 digits at 100, and you do 3 digits after that at the 100,000. So if it's 1 digit after the 100,000s, then you're in the million category. So Rebecca's got like 3 million subscribers, which again, shout outs to my girl because she deserves it honestly. Yeah, 30. Yeah, so the exact estimate's right over here. 3,100,000 subscribers. So good job, Rebecca. Good job. I give you all the praises in the world for accomplishing that. And that's gonna get into something later on with chapter 178. But we get that, and that's when we kind of get a little bit of an idea of what's going on with um a conversation with Elsie between Shiki. And what we apparently find out is that Elsie's somewhere else. And because she goes on into saying that, oh, you're still in the Kaede Cosmos. So it's kind of implying that she's not there. She's elsewhere. And but we also kind of find out that she's actually on a planet not too far away from them, which is actually saying a lot. My home used to be around here. And instead of diving straight into that story, she's like, "Yeah, it's a story for another time. We'll stay in touch." But she does end up the conversation by saying that, "Hey, let's let the other person know what's going on once we know where Ziggy's located." That's when we get a reintroduction to Jin. We get Laguna again. How it's kind of been like this never-ending cycle of going to a planet, saving people, and still finding no answers because that's been the main objective is all right, we got to get to these planets that Ziggy's invaded. Doing that, and thus we're able to find Ziggy. That's been the main objective, but they've had no clues. And Jin's kind of getting frustrated like, what are we going to do? How long are we going to keep doing this? And something I thought was interesting was that because, and I want to say this was a couple chapters back, but Shiki stopped referring to Ziggy as Grandpa because that's been the big thing that was going on. Now he addresses Ziggy as like Ziggy, the like the threat of the universe. So that does showcase growth and what's happened with him outside of his combat capabilities and what goes on in the outside world. And we do get a bath scene, which it's like okay, look, where we're getting some of that that hero greatness, if you if you guys want to call it that. But honestly speaking, though, if you look past the scene itself, like if you look past like the imagery of it, a lot of it is just based on the conversation between Clean, Rebecca, and Hamura, talking about Shiki and his status now being acknowledged as the Orationes Galactica, like a new member, if you will. So him and because he and Elsa have been communicating back and forth, and because he, brought in Clean and Laguna and Jin on board, it's like, all right, now we're gonna classify him as a member of the Galactica, which is, it's interesting. But you're kind of getting a little bit of doubt from Clean, like, isn't this gonna kind of ruin your your reputation as a beekeeper. And Rebecca kind of says it best that that was never really anything to begin with. And it's not something Shiki, lets it. He doesn't let that bother him because friends, friends and whatnot. And of course, that's where we also kind of find out that Hamora's there. Not Hamora, but well, Hamora's been there, but Ivory's there also. Yeah, it's been 3 years, and he's gotten even stronger. And this was actually kind of heart wrenching. I'm not gonna lie. This moment over here was actually pretty heart wrenching to witness, which was essentially Shiki looking over at the throne room, and he sees Witch's helmet. Oh my god, that I'm never gonna stop thinking about the guys. Like that moment was so powerful, so gut wrenching that seeing these moments again, like when Shiki first sits down on the throne and he's like just thinking back to everything, like it says a lot. And again, it's shown how much he's grown throughout the story. Like if you go back to the beginning of Eden Zero and you see where Shiki is now, it's yeah, like sure, especially with where we are right now. Like yeah, certain characteristic traits are still there with Shiki for sure, but it's not like that's all that's to his character now, because through this journey, we've seen how he's grown, how much he's regressed, and a lot of the quote unquote character traits we see of him later on more so has to do with the downtime moment. When it's like super down, that's when Shiki kind of gets back to his old habits. But if something serious is happening, Shiki doesn't let that slide. So that's a big thing. And I kind of like what he says over here because she says, Witch and you too, Valkyrie. I'll protect the ship. I am its sword and its shield. So, what that's implying to me is he's kind of becoming the new shield. Because we know Hamura technically is the quote unquote replacement for Valkyrie in terms of being, one of the shining stars. But getting Shiki is I'm not saying he's going to be like the next person to overtake Witch per se in terms of being that member, but it's kind of his way of saying that I'm going to protect the ship and I'm going to make sure that everybody I know on this ship survives. That's essentially what he's saying. But it's nice. He swears he'll be Ziggy and he'll take us to see Mother. And this is where we get something big because lo and behold, Captain Connor shows back up. And I remember looking at this going like, oh my god. I was like, wait, hold on. This guy teamed up with Ziggy. How the hell did he come back over here? And this correlates back to, I want to say, when Rebecca used a cat leaper multiple times at the end of 167. Because if you guys remember, towards the end of the chapter, we see how broken Rebecca's body had gotten and how she had been using Cat Leaper multiple times to ensure that they could find a way to get Witch back, but nothing was possible. So, and that's something we kind of get into for the next chapter. But what we get with Connor, I think, is interesting because we come to find out Ziggy has a droid factory, which is obviously like not a big surprise, but we know of an idea of where it is, and Shiki's like, "Oh, cool." So now we know. We now have a roadmap to where Ziggy could possibly be. But one of the big things that we kind of get into for 172, besides the reintroduction of Connor, um, we kind of get an idea as to what's going on. And apparently, in this timeline, if you will, because that's something we kind of find out with Rebecca and Noah, is that apparently Connor here did not team up with Ziggy. This timeline in particular, or this universe, if you will, he doesn't team up with Ziggy because the last time we saw him, both him and Ziggy teamed up, yes. However, this time it's like, yeah, look, I'm in this place. I don't know how I'm here, but when I found out we were making machines, I hightailed out. But we also come to find out that they're on the perpetual motion machine planet called Lindard, and that again gave Shiki a bit of an idea of like, all right, so now we know a full idea of where he's located this time. And like I said, when we get back to Noah and Rebecca having that conversation, and Rebecca's got a nice little laptop, if you will, with Neko-chan, and it it kind of reminds me of like the Hello Kitty stickers that you see in like stores and whatnot. But this is kind of where the whole multiverse idea comes into play because we know Cat Leaper has affected time before. It happened with World 29, where Shiki died, and then we cut to World 30. And I want to say World 31 is when we got the last time that we got any confirmation on things. I could be wrong, but as far as I remember, World 31 was the last bit of info we got. At least, again, based off memory, of course, just based off my memory alone. But we kind of get into an explanation of no, we're in this world because of how many times Rebecca's done cat leap, which again does correlate back to chapter 167 when we see just how many times she's tried to use Cat Leaper to, try to bring Witch back, but we can never get back to that point in time. But we go even further into that. We get a further explanation from Noah as to how her Cat Leaper ability works. The first is reverse, which is a 90-second time leap, which you use subconsciously as a child. I learned to use consciously on Sunjul. And that's where he kind of goes on to say that, yeah, which changes nothing. That doesn't change anything. However, and that doesn't change the greater future. So even if certain things are like altered, it doesn't affect what's to come later on down the line, which I think is interesting. And then the second one that was used was during the fight against Draken Joe. And that's when he kind of brings up the concept of the universes and, if you will, multiverses. And he actually lays it out pretty simply. In the first universe, Shiki died. In the second universe, Draken Joe dies. Or not, it's not that he just dies. They succeed in taking out Draken Joe. And now, the world we're in, where you beat Nero, was Universe 3. And this is where we get that explanation because Rebecca's like, wait, hold on. How exactly do we get to Universe 3? And the explanation we get is it was right around 3 years ago, sometime before Nero 66 was destroyed. I was sure you used your cat leap ability to escape. But Rebecca doesn't know exactly why that's the case. And that throws off Noah too, because he's like, huh, I don't get that then. Yeah, like how exactly did that happen? It just doesn't make any sense. But he's certain that they moved over to Universe 3. And even though he goes on to explain that if they had stayed in Universe 2, it would have meant death. Like, Edens Zero and Shiki and Rebecca, they would have been gone. He just says blankly. I wonder when the change exactly happened, and that's when we cut back to that panel where we see Ziggy, and he says, "You made the wrong choice." And Rebecca's just having that inner thought that we didn't make the wrong choice. I was so sure there was a way to save Witch. And now about Mr. Connor, and this is where that whole explanation comes in. So in the first universe, they rescued him when he was floating through the cosmos after a shipwreck. And in the second universe, he was the captain of Ziggy's ship. And now, in the third universe, he was drifting through the Kaede Cosmos after escaping a droid factory. I still find that kind of shady, all things considered. I'm gonna be honest. I still find that a little shady. Like all of a sudden, he just hightails and bails. Like, really? No. So something about it just doesn't sit right with me. It doesn't. But Noah says it best. That's how things work in the multiverse. If a world changes, the history of its people can change from what they once were. And we kind of get some of these little interactions again with Connor and Pino teaching her some of these words. And Wise is like, hey, don't be saying those weird sounds to her. He also taught me something called the F word. That one had me dying too, I'm not going to lie. When I read that, I was like, oh my God, that is not. Yes, the F word is fire trip, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what it is. But no, you're seeing that, and Rebecca's thinking back to what he was before in Universe 1. He's like, yeah, he was pretty good. Wait a minute. Nah, maybe not that good, but decent ish enough. And we're seeing exactly what happened during that point because Rebecca thinks back to Universe 1 when Shiki got killed. So, in a way, and I like what Hero did here because it's not like there weren't any consequences in those arcs. Because I know some people were like, "Oh my god!" So we're just reversing everything. No, those events still happened. In Universe 2, they were all destroyed. So those things still happened. We just kind of created a different timeline, if you will, a paradox. So now in this, she's hoping they can find a happy ending. And this is kind of where we cut back to Elsie, and they relay the information that Ziggy's on planet Lindard, if you will. Sorry about that, guys. That was just my Discord going off. Look, gives me a chance to refill on my water. But going back to what I was saying when it pertains to Eden Zero, um, the chapter itself, more in particular. So the biggest thing we find out is that not only will Elsie meet them there, but we also kind of find out that she's from the Kaede Cosmos too, which is kind of interesting, all things considered. I mean, we know she was kind of based off of royalty. Based on I want to say Volume 14 is where we kind of find this out. That flashback she had with Justice. So something happened there. And I know we didn't dive too much into that, which, like Elsie said, is a story for another time. Truth be told. But we get there, and this is where things are interesting because we're seeing the machines being built. It's kind of like Terminator, if you will. You see the I was about to say shining stars, the dark stars, the four dark stars. We see Wizard there. We see Clown, and this was something I predicted because we know uh Brigadine was destroyed in the war, and so was Killer, which kind of gave me an idea. And I was like, okay, if they're destroyed, I'm pretty sure Ziggy's gonna do whatever it takes to, rebuild them and try to improve upon what they were before. And that's kind of something what we get over here. So it was kind of nice seeing that. That being said, it's interesting how Killer has a little bit more of a humanoid look to him than anything. But, you know, and once again, Discord's going off on my end, so I do apologize there. Let's see here. That and somebody's having fun on the on in the streets right now. So yeah, that's a thing. All things considered, and I've been using that a lot. Using that way, way too much. But I'm just linking my stream to one other spot, and then after that, we're good. After that. Okay. So we get to this point with the Dark Stars. We see Ziggy there, and he knows Shiki's coming. He knows that. He knows that Shiki's on his way. You see the machines there, and he says, "We stay here to fight him. We're going to settle this." And we got one half of Ziggy, one half of Shiki. Which, if I had live reacted to this chapter, by the way, guys, I'm pretty sure I would have edited the thumbnail to where you see Ziggy on one side, Shiki on one side. They're kind of like merged together. It would have been something like that, something epic, if you will. And 173, I want to say, is where we kind of start seeing a little bit of the old antics again from Shiki, a little bit. But like I said, I've taken down notes on what happens. So the first objective that happens is what they plan to do, and a lot of it has to do with the countermeasure attack on what happens once they get to the planet. But to do that first, we kind of get interrupted by Connor, and he's like, "Hey, I want no part in this. Just drop me off at a planet somewhere, please, please, please. I don't want to deal with this. Please, just get me out of here." And can I just say? Can I just say? Clean looks beautiful. She looks beautiful. I don't think I can stress that enough. But then again, most of the girls Hiro Mashima draws are, they're beautiful. I'm not gonna sit here and say no one's beautiful in terms of female characters, but yeah, I'm gonna just say it. If you look beautiful, you look beautiful. Case in point. But yeah, everyone's kind of surprised. Like, wait, you're still here? Like, what are you doing? It's like all of Kaede Cosmos already be under Ziggy's control. I don't know why. Every time I read Connor's lines, I always kind of picture like sailor talk. Like, you ever it's that one character from Codename Kids Next Door. I forget who it is, but he has candies and whatnot. Sticky Beard. Yeah, there we go. Sticky Beard. I picture his voice every time I read Connor's dialogue, and I'm like, I don't know why it's that voice in particular, but it just sticks out to me. Um, so they're trying to figure out what they want to do, and Shiki just says, "Let's just drop him off." I mean, there's nothing better than that. So they go back to the Soccer Cosmos, and they cut back to Blue Garden, and this is where a big shift happens because Rebecca's super popular, and she's a big beekeeper, all the subs and everything. People are like, "Oh, that's Rebecca." Because go back to early on in the story, it's like, okay, they were just normal people. It's like, okay, they were just minding their own business, except for the people in the guild, because everyone in the guild knows who Rebecca is. Now, because of her status, it's like, yo, is that Rebecca I see? Hold up, hold up. We gotta pause for a second. We gotta pause here in chat because Miss Famous is over here. And that just kind of scares her off, like, I'm gonna go that direction. We No, no. And Wise kind of starts bringing up something interesting because what he says is, yeah, we haven't been in the cosmos in ages. And that kind of gets him thinking back to Zhao Mei. And he's like, wait, hold on. Now that I think about it, we could have gone to Melty, and we didn't need to be here. Which is where we kind of see some of Shiki's old characteristic traits again. Like him and Wise kind of having the same kind of reactions. But we find out something interesting from Hermit is that Mildian is one of those planets that kind of jumps around. It's not always destined to be in one location. And I thought like that stood out to me. I was like, huh. I mean, it would make sense why they didn't just decide to go see Xiaomei right away. But it is a very quick and but simple explanation as to why they can't just go back to Xiaomei off the gate. So I do like that. Yeah, because Hermit says right here that planet moves around erratically. It could be in the Aoi Cosmos or anywhere now. All we know is that it's in some location where we can't find it. So pretty much, Zhao Mei is like, you know what? I can be here. I can be there. Just the best thing I can kind of think of is the Death Star. Think of the Death Star from Star Wars. I kind of picture it like that, where it can just pop in and out wherever you are in the world. Connor's there, and I want to say what ends up happening is we kind of get a little bit more on his background for this universe. Is that he has a missing daughter, and I know the big theory going around is that perhaps Rebecca could be his daughter. It's a possibility because we find out that his wife, left him with a daughter, and she could be around the same age as Rebecca and Hamura and Clean. We don't know that yet. I mean, it could be one route to go off of, but I kind of wonder if it's a completely different character altogether. I don't know. Something just tells me that maybe it's somebody different. Maybe it's not Rebecca. Again, I could be wrong, but we'll see. Which, like I said, this is kind of where we kind of get back into some of Shiki's old antics. Because this is where we kind of get to see his crybaby face again. And it was like, whoa, 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 hold on. I thought we moved past this. Like, I remember the reactions people had. People were like, yo, wait a second. What happened to Chad Shiki? Well, why are we still getting this? But what I've liked about this moment in particular is that it wasn't during like a super serious moment. It was kind of during a moment where it's kind of chill, you know? Like it wasn't a moment where, like a life or death situation and we see Shiki making that face. Nothing's happened yet. So that's the one thing I can actually appreciate about it. It's not something I would have done maybe right off the gate, but I guess it does kind of show that some habits are a little too hard to let go of, But it is actually kind of amusing seeing Shiki have that reaction and trying to give Connor some comfort. Like, think of me as your daughter. Oh man, yeah. Don't be so confusing. That's like some Natsu personality that I'm not gonna lie. Kind of reminds me of how Natsu is and how he gets. That's why I be traveling from cosmos to cosmos, looking for my daughter and wife. And this is where we get reintroduced to Clarice. And interestingly enough, Labelia's not there, which I know comes back into play here shortly. But, and this is what I said. The second some shit happens, Shiki goes back into serious mode. And Noah was a big deal for Shiki. Because he's like, wait, you put Rebecca in that situation. I'm not going to forgive you. Like, hell no. No. Not in the slightest. And something to keep in mind, in case y'all forgot, Noah's a part of the Interstellar Union, and Shiki Noah is associated with the Galactica. So they're kind of like two opposing factions, if you will, but they're a part of the same guild. And I just think that's fascinating, truly. But no, we get that, and that's where we kind of find out some shit's been going down. Apparently, from the looks of it, Feather showed up. Feather's there, and it's like, wait, hold on. How exactly does she have that ability? And we come to find out that she kind of has an ability that's very similar to Noah, where he can like detect stuff. So that I thought was actually kind of interesting. It's like, okay, so you get two members ultimately have similar powers, but it's somewhat different, and things get not dicey per se, but that's when Shiki and Rebecca kind of make an agreement that we got to get away. If we stay here any longer, we're gonna cause more harm more harm than good. And they make a run for the ship. And honestly, 174 and 175 are pretty simple. Um, it's basically the Eden's crew versus Feather and her forces, and they're able to go through everything pretty well for the most part. Like I said, not a lot happens in 174 and 175, but we do get a couple of interesting tidbits, if you will. So we see just how good Shiki is, and we saw that briefly in 170, but how tactical he's being and how he's able to maneuver around certain things kind of shows his combat capabilities. And not to mention, we got to see Rebecca's overdrive look too, which I know some people were like, it's interesting. I quite like it, actually. I think her overdrive ability, appearance wise, looks great. And it's kind of funny now because I always assumed overdrive was going to be something exclusive to Shiki and maybe Dragon Joe. But now it looks like you know, almost everybody has it. At least the main crew does. Because Hamura has it, Wise has it, Shiki has it, and now Rebecca has it too. I want to say we might get more from the other members of the crew. Like maybe we could get it from Jin, maybe Clean, but who knows? But the main big gist of this fight is Connor starts having second thoughts. Ultimately, Connor has second thoughts about the fight and him staying there, and he says, "No, I'm gonna join. I'm gonna help be there, to help the kids out." So when they're on the ship, and Feather kind of has them in a pickle. And that's when Connor says, "Hold on, sit back, let me take the steering wheel, and we'll get things going." And I actually thought what Connor did was really, really impressive. Because we know he always mentioned he was a captain, but his piloting skills we've never really seen off the gate. So the way he maneuver around the battleships, especially the asteroids, like even like Hermit kind of got on him, like, wait, hold on. Do you not realize how dangerous this is? Like, this is so messed up. And I think this is like probably like one of the only few occasions where, as this is happening, they activate the slip space, and Shiki's like the only one who's unfazed. Maybe because he knows that they're going to be in a safe spot. But I actually thought that just kind of stood out because Shiki's there, him being a smartass, if you will, using his gravity ether gear, and like, awesome! I had no idea we could go this fast. Poor Rebecca's holding on to Shiki, Clean's holding on to Rebecca, Happy holding on to Rebecca too. Pino's there too, holding on to the strap band that's on Shiki. And there's some more stuff going on in the neighborhood. That's interesting. Anyway, I feel like I'm regurgitating at this point of things that are going down, but let's just say this. They get there, they get through the field, and ultimately, Feather isn't successful, which is where Holy comes back into the picture. And I'll be honest, I actually kind of forgot that Holy showed up in 106 because I remember when I was going through this reread phase of 169 to 179 that for some odd reason my memory was like, I'm pretty sure Holy might have shown up before 169, but I wasn't too sure, or at the very least before 168. So I looked back on the chapter and it was 106. I was like, oh yeah. But again, that kind of goes to show you what Hero is able to do as a storyteller. He'll introduce some characters that we don't get too much emphasis on at first, but then once we know more about them, it's like, yo, it's it's something for sure. So the last bits of the story, which is 160, 176 through 178. So we get a status update from Xiaomei on what's been going on. They continue their quest to defeat Shiki. 3 years have passed, and they finally located Ziggy's main base. Interestingly enough, we see Xiaomei, in a swimsuit. And she even points us out, like, yeah, why do you guys think I'm in a swimsuit? Well, shouldn't I be one once in a while? Now, here's something that I saw one day, and it's kind of been on my mind for a while. But let's just say, ultimately, what Xiaomei says, yeah, they stopped by a planet to not only yeah, like kind of repair like large vessels because, well, let's just say the Eden Zero kind of used up too much juice. Ultimately, they used up way too much juice than they would have liked. So they're like, let's rust on this planet. But what I wanted to say about Xiaomei is this theory that's been going around that perhaps Xiaomei could be the future daughter of Shiki and Rebecca. And at first I was like, it's possible, but then I kept thinking back to the way how Hero writes his stories. Again, You look at Fairy Tail, look at like the whole mystery behind Zeref and his connection to Natsu. Finding out that Natsu and Zeref were actually brothers. That's revelation still sticks to me. I was like, whoa, that's actually pretty cool. Because at first you're kind of thinking, who? Okay, what connection does Zeref have to Natsu? Like, were they like best friends back in the day? Like, what happened? So I thought that backstory for Zeref was actually really cool. Now, I don't think that moment tops what happened to Seacard. Like, Seacard was a really, really, really good standout character, I think, in terms of Hiramashima characters. And the amount of foreshadowing, those subtleties behind the reveal. There's not much I could say. There's really not much I could say when it comes to what happened with Seacard. But I think the possibility of Xiaomei being the future daughter of Shiki and Rebecca is plausible, but we just gotta wait and see. That's all I can say. We just gotta wait and see because, and I'm saying this because Xiaomei is known as the Time Oracle. So, and she is the narrator of the story. That's the other big indicator I want to keep in mind about this with everyone. Xiaomei is the narrator. So, it's possible she could be telling the story of her parents. It could be, but again, that's just a theory, and I might go more in depth with that in a future video. I might, but just thought I'd point that out there. It kind of came to my attention as I was going through reading these chapters. So let's just say they're at a vacation resort, the Eden Zero crew. They're at Ryuzetsu Island, and like I said, this is where we get a little bit more of Shiki's old antics. Again, in a moment of downtime, which is why I think it works. And it was only 3 chapters ago too. Because now that I actually remember the chapter numbers, 173 is where we kind of see Crybaby Shiki's face. And 176 is where we get the, hey, will you be my friend? During a moment of downtime. So I think that's fine. But like even Hero kind of takes a jab at it. It's like, yeah, his baby face excused him before, but currently it seems more like a pickup line, is what Laguna says. Because Jin's the one that's like, yeah, it made sense with his baby face, but no, no. Like, we can't let this keep going on. No, no. And we see Rebecca. We're seeing Hermit's reaction was hilarious, though, I'm not gonna lie. With her, she's like, "Are you kidding me? The pool set is the best spot to get my programming done." And you see just how excited and thrilled she is. And then Ivory, oh my god, yo, Ivory made me laugh so much too. She's like, "Yeah, it's also the perfect spot for breaking in new animals," and you see how she's using or not using slash treating Moscow. It's funny. Uh, but Clean's there, and she kind of points out, yeah, wow, Lugarino, you're amazing with kind of using the water park features, and he even points out, no, it's not me. But if it were me, I'd do something like this. And Clean's like, yeah, let me add my wind power too. And I love how serious Jin is. He's like, well, both of you just stop that. Like, come on, let's not cause any more trouble or add any more trouble. Hamor is pretty funny too because you see her doing her antic. I got to train in water. I got to make sure I run. And Wise decides to help her out, which ultimately leads her to losing her clothes. And she's like, "Ah, shit! Nope. Hold on, stop the water." It's like, huh? Maybe I did that a little too much. Which cuts us over to the Rebecca and Shiki moment. Where they're taking pictures, and she kisses him on the cheek, and he starts blushing. going like, what was that one about? Because you're always helping me. A kiss from me is a pretty valuable reward, don't you think? But you're always helping me out. The fucking hero, man. Oh my god. Well, hero. Really? Okay, look. He says, then let's mark our future together as a mutually beneficial relationship. Let me repeat that one more time. Mutually beneficial relationship. I mean, it's not canon 100%, but if I were to make a percentage rating on this, I'd say 80% for sure. 85% guaranteed. At this point, those two are getting together. At this point. I mean, look, if we're comparing this to Nalu, like the progression that Shebek has gone through is great. It's not on the same tier as Haru and Ellie from Rave Master, but it's getting there. It's getting there for sure. Once we beat Ziggy, let's go to Mother. Can't wait. We'll all go together. And this is where we get the reintroduction of Lobelia. And it's interesting. And I've been using that a lot throughout this entire stream, but I honestly do have to say that I like this parallel and contrast where pre-time skip, Rebecca was the one who was below um all the beekeepers. And Lobelia was the one who was like so high up in popularity. And now the roles are kind of reversed now. Where now Lobelia is the one who's underneath, and Rebecca's the one who's got all the recognition and fame. So it's interesting, and that does kind of go into what happens here because you see all these guys, these pervs, if you will, kind of pick on Lobelia, and Shiki takes them out. Lobelia's there, and these guys are like, wait a minute, is that Rebecca? Oh man, dude, she's so hot. Let's strip tea. Let's do all this stuff. And yo, I love the face Shiki makes because he's like, no. That's not how this is gonna work. Not in front of me. Y'all ain't doing this shit while I'm in in the present. And even she brings it up too, like, oh, you guys don't know what's about to happen next. Come to find out, Holy's here. Which gets us into two bits that I want to talk about. And the first one I do want to talk about is Holy, because she throws everybody off by saying, hey, maybe we could be friends. Like, I don't know. It seems sketchy. But I can talk about Holy first. So she offers to assist the Eden Zero crew to take down Ziggy. But they have to do something for her in return. And what she wants is to hunt down Dead End Crow, who's one of the Oration Seis Galactica members. And it just so happens that he's on that planet. He's on the same planet where Ziggy is because they've joined forces. So it's kind of like that thing. Like, okay, both of our targets are in the same area. Let's try to take them out. But I can't help but think that what's it called? Holy's kind of got some other motives behind her slaves because there's certain panels here and there where there's some shady stuff going on. Where, yeah, she's helping them, and yeah, they're having some nice things, but ultimately, it's kind of like hmm, like I can't put my finger on it, sh- ultimately, let's say this: there's something she's not saying or not revealing, and that's shady as all hell. Is the shortest way I can describe it. But what happens next is actually interesting because we don't see Labilia um being her snarky, um I guess bitchy attitude that we've always seen her have with Rebecca, with the crew. She's a lot more polite, and that throws off Rebecca a lot. She's like, "What's going on?" And you see like these certain panels too, where she kind of has like this down face, and Rebecca's able to notice that. She's like, "Yeah, no, she didn't say one nasty thing at all." And that's where we get into her backstory, which I know some people complained about it. And they're like, "Yo, this is kind of cool, but would it have been nice to kind of get a little bit of foreshadowing?" Yeah, um, I do kind of think it would have been nice to see something like that, but I also feel like it's a storytelling tactic where you reveal, like, yeah, you could hint at things, but you don't want to hint at stuff too much. I mean, there were a couple occasions where you can make the argument that, yeah, Libelia did look like she was being friendly, but then pulling off all those pranks. And ultimately, what we find out in the flashback of her backstory is that Rebecca inspired her to be a beekeeper. And, for someone who was so low tier in terms of videos, being Rebecca, it really moved her and it touched her to a point where she kind of wanted to be just like Rebecca. And she felt like what she looked into for Rebecca in terms of how she viewed that situation, how much Rebecca inspired Lobelia. She's like, why isn't she getting the same success that I am? And that's kind of what transpired into her being the character that we've seen thus far. That nasty persona. And like I said, 3 years have passed and the, you know, the situation's changed. Rebecca's now the one who's above Lobelia, and I don't know what else I can say about that. I really don't. I thought it worked for what it was. I mean, yeah, like I said, could we have gotten a little bit more stuff before this? Probably, but I think for what we got, I think it made sense. But we also kind of come to find out that yeah, Lobelia's kind of had this disease that's incurable, and she just kind of wants to die because of the treatment, and she's seen many doctors and whatnot. But Rebecca tells her, "Look, hey, we're just entering our first steps in terms of being friends." And I've always had that suspicion that some in some way, shape, or form, Lobelia was going to be a part of the crew. I kind of had the seeking suspicion because if y'all remember the first color page from Edens Zero, I'm actually looking at it right now. Lobelia was one of like the big characters that hero drew. Like you had older wives, you had Rebecca, Lobelia's there, Victory's there, Justice is there, Clarice is there, Jesse's there too. Someone needs to take out Jesse for the love of God, because oh my, Jesse's a whole nother situation in and of itself. But Wise is there too. You got Mother and Ziggy's also there. So something always told me that we were gonna get a big role for Lobelia in the story, but with the direction it was going in, it was like, okay, maybe she's just kind of one of those characters that's just, gonna appear from time to time. But she's shown up kind of frequently. Even if you go back to the Sakura Cosmos Saga, she's appeared, let me think. Blue Garden, she showed up in Sun Jewel, and Belial Goer, so it's not like she hasn't appeared at all. But the few scenarios where we do see her, we kind of get that bitchy attitude from Rebecca. Or not from Rebecca, from Labilia, ultimately. Ah, but no, what she does tell Rebecca, or not what she tells Rebecca, but what Rebecca tells her that, hey, there's Sister Ivory, she could probably help you out. And then we transition over back to Shiki, that, hey, we accept your conditions, we accept your terms, but there needs to be one thing that needs to happen. You're staying on board, first and foremost. You are staying on board because no backstabbing situations. Ultimately, we don't want to be getting into that scenario where it's like, okay. And even she knows that too. It's like, huh, they want me under watch. And if you can't do that, deal's off. And ultimately, that's what happens. She just says, all right, fine. I'll accept your terms. Which is kind of gets us into an interesting but fun section of the latest chapter because she's on board the Eden Zero crew, and because of how agreeable Holy's being, like Hermit's there watching over, and she's like, okay, you know what? Now that's too shady. That is way too shady. No way. No, 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 no. And she even teases Wes, like, "Oh, what's the matter? Don't you want to be peeking on me to the restroom?" And he's like, I'm like, "Wise." No one's surprised at this point. We know that's one of your antics. We know that for sure. But she does point out that, yeah, Shiki's orders, we won't watch you any more than necessary. He says, as long as she's on our ship, she's one of us. So, kind of giving her that privacy. Which again brings us back into more of like that shady territory with Holy. And honestly speaking, I wouldn't be surprised if Holy has some kind of involvement. Like we know Witch's death ultimately shaped Shiki into being a little bit more serious, if you will. But remember in the future it's kind of established that Happy died, right? So I wonder if Holy has something to do with that. Speculation on my part, but let's see. So they're in the mess hall. We're just getting the different interactions from Clean, from Jin, Couchpo, from Laguna. We get the dress factory, and we're seeing like all the different little things that go on over there with Pino. And that's when, like what I said, nobody's surprised by Wise at this point. Because, yo, let's cosplay for a minute. So you see her doing poses, doing different outfits, and doing like having like a cutesy maid outfit. And he's like, "Yeah, finally, I got something." And yo, Hermit's face. She's like, "Dog, are you serious right now? Like, you're excited about that when she could just up and backstab us in the future?" I'm not gonna lie, I would have the same face Hermit has. I'd be like, "Cool, but keep her be a little bit more reserved." My dad. Like, be a little bit more reserved. And then she's in, having some nice quality time with the girls in the bath, which is where we get something interesting. Again, we get these moments where, yeah, they're in the bath and whatnot. Most of it has been kind of been for comedic effect. Like, I'll never forget when Homura challenged Rebecca and she's like, here in the bath? No, I'm not doing that. But something interesting comes up because Holy mentions that she's from the Yukino Cosmos. And we're already established at this point in the story, with this latest chapter, that there are a total of four cosmos. There's Sakura, Aoi, Cade, and the Yukino Cosmos. Which is funny because Yukino is actually oh my god. Not Sabrina. Why am I Serana, there we go, yeah. Serana's little sister from Fairy Tale. So it's kind of interesting. But the interesting thing she brings up is, do you know like why they all call the what they call all those cosmos together? It's like, yeah, because they represent the seasons, like how Sakura represents spring, Aoi represents summer, Cade represents fall, and Yukino's winter. They're the four seasons. You see, and some call it, which was kind of an eye opener when I read this next part because I had to sit there for a good 2 minutes thinking, wait, hold on. The Grand Shiki Cosmos. Because Shiki means four seasons. And even Rebecca catches on to that too. Shiki? It's like, do you suppose it's a coincidence? So, what Hero's implying here is there's a whole bigger mystery behind Shiki than what we already know. Because so far, so far, all we know is that Ziggy and the Shining Stars were on their way to find Mother. Along the way, they found Elsie and they found Shiki. And it's like, wait, what? And in chapter two, it's hinted that from Mother that, okay, will Shiki be the hero of the story? Or will he be the one to bring not other doom and destruction? Hold on, I'm gonna actually look at the proper page here because that page did kind of stick out to me. So I'm actually going to be a little bit verbatim here with the dialogue. So the exact dialogue that Mother says is, what will he bring upon our universe? Will he become a hero of legend? Or will he wreak insurmountable havoc as a demon king? Now your adventure has begun. Let your own feet carry you forward. And like I said, I think that's like one of the only few times we've seen. That's like the only time we've seen Mother in the story. So the fact that Holy mentions this reveal that the Grand Shiki Cosmos is what makes up all four of these together makes me curious. That makes me super curious what role Shiki has to play and his origins, if you will, for the future. Um, Cutting over to that, we get Ivory talking to Lobelia about her disease, how she can cure her. But in return, and this is what I was mentioning, you need to stay aboard the ship longer. So this to me feels like Hero setting up Lobelia to actually be a part of the crew. Because the same thing happened with Laguna, and the same thing I think happened with Jin and Clean. It was kind of like a temporary thing, and then they ultimately kind of joined. So I do feel like we're gonna get somewhere with Lobelia and her eventually like permanently joining. Right now, like she's kind of like a temporary member. Oh, and small note to touch on. It's actually funny how she views Rebecca when it comes to whipping her backside. I was like, wow. I mean, we know Ivory was into some stuff, but man, that dark humor, guys, that dark humor. Yeah. So we're in the briefing room. Since we're working together, I have one more condition. Aren't we greedy? Aren't we the greedy one? What is it now? So Shiki mentions how Elsie's gonna be there, and she doesn't, and he needs her to take care of justice. But according to Holy, that she can't do that because they aren't authorized to give each other orders. Because the system itself is actually interesting, which I didn't dive too much into. But the Interstellar doesn't like actually have a big chain of command. They kind of operate on their own orders, their own agendas. So it shows a contrast between the Galactica and the Interstellar Union. That like, okay. But this is kind of where we get into a little bit of backstory here with Connor and what he was doing. Again, he was helping out, researching text for the robot, but he didn't know it was Ziggy's soldier. He's like, yeah, I didn't know that. Which, again, in Universe 3, he never saw him. But when he escaped, he saw a giant that gave him, the shiver me timbers, if you will. And he thought it was like a weapon of Ziggy's. But Holy clarifies, telling him no, that was Dead End Crow. And we come to find out, and as soon as I read this next part, I was like, "Yo, Hero, did you seriously watch Attack on Titan?" I'm gonna just say, like, did you sit and watch Attack on Titan? Because she calls Dead End Crow the Titan of Eternal Darkness, which shocked Shiki at 420 meters tall. Jesus Christ. Yeah, and I'm not gonna lie. I saw this panel and it was exciting, but at the same time, I'm like, why did we have to end off right here? Like, why did this have to be the last page we end off on? Because, god damn, I want to know what happens next after this. But overall, because I've rambled on long enough. The 11 chapters we've had since 168, which was the last reaction video I did. I'm really liking the direction of where Eden Zero is going. I like how we've established a few things too, like what the Eden Zero crew is going to do. Ziggy's position's interesting. Do I think Ziggy's going to be taken out once they reach Planet Leonard? Um, or Lindard? No, I don't think so. I feel like what's going to happen is they're going to get to Dead End Crow. They're going to deal with him, and I feel like Ziggy. I feel like they're going to fight Ziggy, but I feel like Ziggy's going to get away. That's my prediction. I feel like Shiki will fight Ziggy, but it still won't be at his max potential. I think that. And because we've now established that there's a Yukino Cosmos too, I feel like that's where Ziggy's going to go to next, personally. But we'll see. We'll see what happens within the next couple chapters of Eden Zero. And hopefully, after. Yeah, I'm actually hoping that when this next week comes by, so not chapter 180, but I'm hoping with chapter 181, depending on how things go on Thursday on my end, because I do have a follow-up appointment to deal with uh, when it comes to my recovery process. But depending on that, will determine if I come back to doing my live reactions to the Eden Zero chapters, because I have missed that. I've so missed that. But for now, I will say it's been great plus. Great plus to arguably amazing content with Eden Zero. And I can't wait to see what happens next. So let me know what you guys' thoughts are on Eden Zero. What was your favorite parts about like these latest 10 chapters? You have any nitpicks with the chapters too? And yeah, aside from that, you guys, that's pretty much it. I'm Lucky7. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more Eden Zero. And I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.